Just tired now. Just think about it. Take a bite out of life. Thank you guys. Hey, you made it to the Just Tired Now show. T-A-I, not T-H-I like the food, but we just this spicy place where we combine our mind with our hearts, see what our gut mind is saying, connect all those three circles and let whatever come out. Just come on out. Come on out. Be sure y'all check out the Just Tired Now website. Just Tired Now website. There's some art on there. Some art. Y'all getting some previews right here. A true story, Kuplar, a proclamation of eternity. True didn't even see this yet, but I'm working on the website. Y'all can support the channel, purchase a full-size laminated poster and sticker. This art comes from my heart. Y'all know how we tie on here. I'm gonna be reading a report or a trip report on here from Reddit, and it's all like, check out this one. This one got 19,000 views. A blind man trip report. So since y'all like videos like this, we gonna keep it up. Most popular Just Tired Now video to date, even with all the hate. But let's get into this. It's about somebody's mushroom plus DMT trip. They had 5 grams of mushrooms plus 40 milligrams of DMT. This uploaded 3 years ago by Go Josh Yourself. Haha. So let's dive right into this. If you want to see more like this, drop a comment below and like this vid. And right now, before I continue. All right, now that we all here settled out, let's go in and see what they got to say. And I do not condone use of illegal or legal drugs. We just tying. It's 5 a.m. My alarm goes off and I awake to the sound of crickets outside my tent. It is still dark out. I normally might be tired and groggy at such an early hour, but am instead filled with such a feeling of excitement, anxiety. I have been planning this day for several months, never actually sure of the time and place of which to dose, nor the order nor time frame in which I were to dose them. I was not even 100% sure if I would dose at all. I switch on my ladder and begin my morning routine by loading myself a large bowl of white buffalo sativa bud to wake myself up. Normally I would do this, smoke, then sit in silent meditation for 10 to 30 minutes or read whatever book I'm currently invested in. But today I turn on a newly found and downloaded album, Harmless Melodies by the artist Yellow Days. Never heard of them. Grabbed my skateboard and made a slow beeline for the nearest paved road. I currently work at a summer camp near Yosemite National Park as a prep cook for the cafeteria and am heading to help set up and serve breakfast. Skating in the dark fills me with anxiety, but being that I am still unsure of the events to proceed this day, instead of slowing down, I say out loud, if I hit a rock and fall, I don't dose myself. Coming up with the triggers already. I make it to work quicker than I normally would due to this lack of precaution. My music ends right as I walk into work. I ate light vegetarian for breakfast and lunch. At 2:30 p.m. I get off work and go straight back to my tent. Wanting the chance to stargaze that night, I pull off the tarp knowing how difficult it's likely be in my psilocybin influenced state. I then begin organizing the inside of the tent, sweeping any dirt out, throwing out any garbage, folding my clothes to fit properly into my bag, and folding my sleeping bag into place for later enjoyment. Oh, he going into the details. Now he going to the details. What's his name? Go Josh Yourself? Right, let's go. We almost at stage 1. Finally, content with the neatness of my sleeping quarters, I decide it to be time to grind the last 5 grams of mushrooms by hand into a fine dust to mix with my old wala. I then loaded the last 40 milligrams of my DMT sandwich method into my newly christened DMT changa pipe and set it down next to my ashtray to smoke towards the end of the trip. Convinced I would be awake from excitement all night, I rolled myself a Gorilla Glue white buffalo indica sativa, then a blunt of grape ape Gorilla Glue indica, like I see you on the sleepy tip, to smoke after the trip begins coming to an end to help me get to sleep. Yeah, I figured that. After about 2 hours of silent meditation, I look at my phone and see it to be 5:30 in the afternoon already. I am 100% sober. Stage 1, 5:30. T minus 2 minutes silo. T minus 300 min DMT. I turn on about 2 hours worth of downloaded chill step side transmix, and it's about 5:32 p.m. Begin drinking my shroomy smoothie. Within the next few gulps, I am feeling an immediate rush of deja vu, allowing the last few gulps to go down smoothly. But shortly after finishing it, I begin getting a very strong, sickly feeling and an urge to purge these mushrooms from my system. Without haste, I grab my skateboard and head out, only to immediately see a storm brewing in the distance. Despite my sickly head high, I force myself to take some time to drape the tarp back over my tent and tie it down with several knots just in case. I then, skateboard in hand, start making the same slow beeline I had made to the same road I had skated down earlier that morning. These mushrooms are kicking in fast, and the urge to vomit is becoming more and more a thing that envelops my attention. But having to pass through the same summer camp I work at to get to my destination, I force myself to hold it in. The plan is to come up watching the sunset atop one of my favorite hills that I regularly skate down on the side of a cliff I had discovered on my last LSD trip. In order to get there, I had to first walk up this mountain, which is making my urge to vomit more and more apparent. About 100 feet from the trail, I am looking for my entire vision pulsates for a moment, as if shifting to another level. And I begin to dry heave on the side of the road. This continues to happen throughout the come up. I get into this trail which leads to an open pasture where I start making my way through it to a boulder I enjoyed meditating on while last on LSD. The boulder marks a halfway point on this trail which leads me to farther into the bush along a long, windy path and eventually opens up to a cliffside with a slight, beautiful canyon, miles of landscape, nearly vertical rock walls carved by a glistening, rushing river, and many layers of mountain ranges in the distance, with the sunset landing directly behind them. A beautiful, isolated place I will likely continue to occasionally visit for the rest of my life. I walked up near the edge of this cliff and sat myself below a dead tree I become familiar with during my last LSD trip. From this point, I began meditating and watching the landscape turn and shift and melt, eventually pull a joint and lighter out of my pocket. I don't even remember rolling the joint, but look at it for a moment and then slip them back into my pocket. We would just foggy this up, I think to myself, as the visuals get more and more intense anyway. So far, this is pretty interesting. I had journeys myself going out in the woods, seeing certain characters such as rocks and trees as something that was very, very important. And I gotta come back here. Them vibes, you only can get it when you sit in this one spot. Stage 2, 6:30 p.m. T minus 60 minute psilocybin. T minus 210 minutes DMT. My vision is becoming more and more blurry, and the patterns more and more enveloping. This slightly alarming me leads me to a thought in which I immediately act upon. I better get off this cliffside and somewhere safe. I stand up and in my dazed state begin walking towards the trail, but I can't help but feel a yearning to return to my previous spot. For the sake of safety, I ignore this urge and continue to slowly retreat back onto the long, windy path. About halfway through the path, I vomit a bit, and my visions become entirely enveloped by patterns for a moment. I stand there, completely phased for a long period of time, debating on whether I should try to make it back to my tent, or if I should head back to my spot underneath the dead tree. Because as the visuals are beginning to take over, I don't want to fight it for too long, and I want my body to be safe in the meantime. After much frustration with my own inability to make a decision, for the sake of safety, I continue to trek back to the boulder which marked the halfway point for this trail. Once there, I have to sit for a moment to gather myself for a bit. Having done this, I turn and look to see a bright red light peeking at me through the bush of a long, windy path. "Oh my God!" I exclaim out loud, proceeding to stand up and run towards the edge of the path for a better look. Oh my God! The sunset is looking more and more amazingly beautiful the longer I stare. My mood trip is instantly lifted as I stared at the seemingly make-believe scene with my mouth wide open. In the midst of my bewilderment, I become more aware of my hypnotized state, feeling a bit silly, but not caring at all. I just want to stare, and stare I do. Completely regret making this walk back, and start considering running back through the long, windy path to get back to the cliffside before the sun goes all the way down. But instead, I just stand here with the fattest grin I have ever had and tears of joy running down my face. I let out many bursts of nonsensical, maniacal laughter like a teenager not wanting to hang up the phone with their partner. I slowly make my way back towards the pasture until I can finally see the road again. It's a half hour later, stage 3, 7 p.m. T-minus 90 minutes psilocybin, T-minus 180 minutes DMT. Just tired, just tired, just tired. Suddenly, not wanting to return to civilization just yet, I began to wander through this pasture, studying all the same plants and insect life that surrounded me, as well as the silhouettes cast by trees in the foreground of a purple-red sky and background of an increasingly darkening forest. I then began talking to myself, or rather thinking out loud in a very abrupt manner. I can remember yelling, "I get it! I'm not supposed to remember any of this!" before bursting out in laughter, but I can't remember what exactly was that I was supposedly not supposed to remember appropriately. So, likely, the trip itself, as I often put myself in these situations to record and learn from them later. But I cannot remember what precisely I was thinking about that moment of verbal confirmation. My vision begins to pulsate and shift again, and I turn to see that the road is getting farther away the more I walk onto this pasture. Reminding myself about the need for safety, I begin walking back until finally getting onto the road. The crickets were getting lively in the still darkness. I step on my skateboard and immediately jump off after losing my balance. Holy shit! Reaffirming myself, I turn on my phone's flashlight and begin to slowly skate down this mountain, carving as sharply as I can to regulate my speed. At this point, all I can see is a small pin of light that my phone casts on an entirely warped road. The rest of my vision is filled with utter darkness, filling me again with anxiety, but more so this time excitement, even though I am likely going 3 times slower than I normally would. I feel as if I'm going hyperspeed, watching an otherwise flat road bend onto a more globe-like shape. This hill normally takes me 5 to 7 minutes to skate down, but this time it's taking so long that I'm beginning to forget of the world outside of it. All else that is suddenly isn't. All there is my skateboard and this pin of light, of bending light surrounded by still darkness. I am just an observer. This disassociation with the outside world, of course, eventually ends as the hill does. And I begin to enter the summer camp in which I work, except at night in complete darkness. Once I recognize where I am, I slow down, but my momentum is still enough to continuously cast me forward. Even though I know I am in control of my skateboard, I feel as if I am on a ride in Disneyland, in that I am being pulled on a track surrounded by all sorts of interesting cartoony scenes. I see silhouettes of a person walking in my general direction, and this naturally freaks me out for a moment, for I haven't seen another human in hours, or what to me feels like days. I hear a faint "Hi, Josh," and I reply "Hello" as I skate by, unable to make out anything in my vision for what it really is. I believe it to be a coworker I currently have caught some feelings for. Something about the softness of her voice. She is the only other human I am to come across during this entire experience. Knowing of the dumbness of my grin, my quarter-sized pupils, and utter filthiness from the hike, I continue skating forward. Stage 4, 8 p.m. T-minus 150 psilocybin, T-minus 120 minutes DMT. My chill step psytrance mix ends and my chill step Alan Watts lecture mixes automatically begin. Suddenly, hearing Alan Watts' voice leads me to stop, turn off my light, and begin walking in order to listen a bit closer. I walk through the camp staring at the treetops, ending up near the lake. I watch the surrounding trees dance to a slow piano phase, playing behind an Alan Watts lecture about duality and nature. The dark is making my vision shifty, and the mystery of this detour all the more exciting. I stop to stare at the moon's reflection in the lake for a while before heading off the road in the general direction I believe my tent to be. After what seemed for like a long walk through unfamiliar woods, I finally arrived at my tent. Looking up, I see that the sky is rather clear and the stars are bright. Excited about stargazing in my tent, I begin to, for the third time today, untie the knots of my tarp. My vision again pulsates, marking another vision shift, making these knots incredibly hard to get out. I can't help but feel as if I'm being watched with utter amusement, comparable to when a human watches a beaver build their own dam or a spider build their web. I begin to struggle on the last knot and feel as if they are laughing at me in a cute, non-derogatory kind of way. About 5 minutes go by and I am now laughing at myself until I finally am able to get it free. I fold the tarp up and put it away inside my tent. When I turn on my lantern, I am immediately thankful for pre-trip Josh to have cleaned up and organized as much as they did. I slip off my shoes and slip on my mat and sleeping bag, legs crisscross, still listening to Alan Watts' smoothing voice behind the slow piano chords. I sit in this position for a long time before pulling the joint and lighter back out of my pocket to smoke. The silhouette of me puffing a running joint in my mouth illuminates from my lantern on the side of the tent, which intrigues me, almost as the weed smoke itself, cascading across the spaceless, timeless area of existence of which I am perceiving. The joint gets me very high, and I sit in contemplation for a long time. I had to contemplate that word. Watching my tent and items within turn shift and melt, just as I did with the landscapes during the day. It's getting hot. Getting hot. Where we at? Stage 5, 9:30 p.m. T plus 270 minutes psilocybin, T minus 30 minutes DMT. We almost at the DMT breakthrough. Drop a like if y'all enjoying this so far. It is getting colder and colder. I begin to cocoon myself in my sleeping bag, turning every which way like a dog spinning around their pillow. I still have the feeling of being observed. Once warm and comfortable, I cover my face with the sleeping bag as well to submerge myself in its darkness. Instantly, I am surrounded by all sorts of shifting patterns behind a dark backdrop, easily beginning to get lost in this, forgetting who, what, where I am. I uncover my head and say out loud, "Holy shit, that's a whole nother level," and then recede back under. At this point, I forgot about my plans to smoke the DMT. Being overwhelmed by the mushrooms alone, I turn off the lantern and lie down inside my sleeping bag. Listening to the smooth, elegant words of Alan Watts and watching the shifting CEVs for a long period of time before poking my head out for a breath of fresh air, I turn my laddering back on, and the first thing I see is a small spider running around the rim of the ashtray, as if trying to get my attention. As soon as it has, the music ends, and the spider stops and faces its little body towards the DMT pipe, which is only a few inches away. I look deep into its 8 little eyes and say out loud, "Oh, are you telling me to do it?" Or the spider stood there staring for another minute or two before crawling in the direction of the DMT pipe. I take this as the universe reminded me of my original plan and start contemplating how nice spiders are to have around, especially when compared to flies or mosquitoes. After staring at it for some time, I picked up the DMT pipe and immediately get a rather large whiff of a rather particular DMT smell of mothballs. I put the pipe to my lips and then put it down. I brought it back to my lips and then put it back down again. I decided that I needed music. Going into my playlist, I see that I have listened to every single song that I have downloaded during the day. So I think it to be rather fitting that I put on Harmless Melodies by Yellow Days. It's how I started my day. It might as well be how I end my days. So I switch it on and meditate during the first song, DMT pipe in my lap. Then I pick it up and put it on my lips. I lit the lighter several times before gazing the bowl because for some reason I felt it necessary to be synchronized with the music. Stage 6, 10:02 p.m. T plus 270 minutes psilocybin, T plus 1 minute DMT. Within seconds, I can taste the substance. Through repeated use, have actually become quite accustomed to it. Despite its very harsh nature, I find it to be a very pleasant smoke. Within a few seconds and a couple more puffs, my head begins buzzing and vision along with it. I took the pipe away from my face and let out a large, painful cough. For an infinite, seemingly moment, I was left watching the bowl run while I attempt to center my attention enough to light the lighter again. The smoke runs through the smoke similar to a serpent, and the edges of the smoke are sharp, and I can remember thinking that the shapes that it was making were the shapes of my thoughts. Now, the top layer of this large bowl is cherried, perfect for vaporizing a pile of DMT in the center. I take 3 big rips off this cherry. I am blown back to the head first, to the back of my tent. Of course, I was already laying down, but I felt as if synthesized with the DMT and synchronized with the DMT in such manner that it is rather unexplainable. It was almost too perfect, as if there were the same drug on different levels, which chemically speaking, the active ingredient of hallucinating mushrooms are psilocybin 4-PO-DMT and psilocybin 4-HO-DMT, both fairly molecularly similar to dimethyltryptamine in DMT. I thought it was in DMT. Having pre-dosed the DMT with mushrooms, the DMT experience did extend a bit longer, similar to pre-dosing DMT with LSD. However, unlike LSD, the whole experience felt much, much more natural and calm, while a very clear sense of connection with the other can be translated. It also lasted a slightly shorter time than the LSD and DMT combo. Speaking on behalf of my own experiences with mixing LSD and DMT versus mushrooms and DMT. Every hit I take, thought I have, moment I make, word I say, lines up with a beat or break within the music. I feel very one with all, perfectly synchronizing and happening with everything that is happening. This seems to be the theme of the trip and what I am coming to learn. The theme of life entirely. The sync is real. Check it out. Santa, my music out there. This seems to everything seen or done or felt or thought or said synchronizes with something else that did, is, will happen in one's environment and immediate attention, as if I am noticing the perfection of reality more prominently. I have experienced DMT-induced Satori before, and that is what I recognize this experience to be. Harmless Melodies by Yellow Days was absolutely perfect guide music for this experience. Very chill ambient and overall seductively relaxing. Almost scarily, 100% synchronistic with my every current being. As if any message from this experience, it is chill, let everything be. Just observe, grow, and enjoy. And I think we at the last stage, stage 7. It's 10:35. T plus 305 minutes in psilocybin ingesting and T plus 35 minutes since the DMT. The music ends right as I am finishing my last rip from the DMT bowl. I put the pipe down in the newly found silence. I enjoyed this silence for the moment and grabbed the joint I pre-rolled that morning. The second I spark the lighter, another song starts playing, and every puff I take and thought I have aligns up with the song playing in that moment. The bud brought the DMT visuals back so hard that I had to point it out to myself out loud. Holy fuck, I'm still on DMT. The visuals were very nice, sharp, lovely, cartoony distortions that one might be able to create with CGI. The intensity reminded me of LSD. The cartoony, home-like feelings were definitely distinct to mushrooms and or DMT. I smoked the joint and blunt consecutively and then roll one more joint afterwards. I lay in my tent in dark silence, staring at the stars. Nuzzled in my sleeping bag for warmth, I puff on my crotchless joint, contemplating society, religion, and the origins thereof, the idea of love in as many forms, duality as well as my personal existence, and its place in the universe. Non-verbally searching for the answer to the question, what am I supposed to be doing with my life? The answer I get is that I am already doing it. The most important thing to remember is chill. Let everything be. Just observe, grow, and enjoy. I lay in my tent under the stars past 1 a.m. Just thinking about everything. Just tying. I am extremely glad today happened the way it did, and even more glad to have an entire 24-hour period post-trip to just relax and reanalyze the experience that had just unraveled before me. And that was an awesome, awesome experience. Thank you, Go Josh, yourself for sharing. Awesome. As y'all see, mushrooms will bring you to that place of oneness. Will bring you to that place that's very individual to your experience. It's not what was told about in the past, and just going crazy, just losing your head, going bonkers, not being a fit in society, but rethinking about society, rethinking your place in society based off your individual experience, how you grew up, how you encounter time, how you interact with your world with your 5 senses. It's awesome thing. So if y'all enjoyed this video, drop a like, share it as well, and check out the Just Tainow store. And if you want a take a bite out of life hoodie, mushroom hoodie, hey man, just think about it. Just think about there you go. Just think about it and hit me up. Hit me up. You can DM me, message me, justtainow.com. I don't have this one particularly up, but I have shirts and hoodies. Shirts, pink shirts, hoodies. Check out the Instagram for all the displays of everything categorized. And Just Tainow. Just think about all these amazing things that's happening. Amazing things. And if you had some experiences, join the live show, the Side Tie Podcast, and tell your story when we live. Or hit me up so that we can go one-on-one and you could just tell your story and we can have an awesome conversation as opposed to a conversation. conversation is where we combine our mind with our heart. So your gut, mind, and saying, connect all those three circles and let whatever come out, come on out. Have a beautiful day. Dream well.